And then came Justin Trudeau's disastrous open border immigration policies, which have caused an unprecedented strain on our healthcare, education, and other social programs. In just the last 5 years of Trudeau's tenure, Alberta grew by almost 600,000 people to more than 5 million, all while Ottawa throttled our most important job-creating industries and prioritized immigration away from economic migrants and instead focused on international students, temporary workers, and asylum seekers.
Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. Hope you're having a good Wednesday so far. I want to talk about President Donald Trump's State of the Union address last night, why it was so effective. And maybe we could learn something from it here in Canada. We'll be back in mere moments. You're watching Stand on Guard. I'm broadcasting live to you from Ottawa. My name's David Crayden.
The Prime Minister lied and his minions continue to lie.
Your home is your castle. We're calling on the government to introduce and immediately pass the Stand on Guard law.
But we also need to resolve to resist.
Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. No. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
And we're doing it live as we do every morning here in the Ottawa area. I'm David Crayden, your host for Stand on Guard. Got to tell you right away, we need your subscriptions. Please subscribe and please recommend this station to your friends and family because YouTube won't. And I'm finding this every day. No matter what we do, how much original reporting we do, how hard we work, YouTube will not promote this station for whatever reason. I'll leave that up to you. We try to give you unvarnished facts, objective truth here. That's what this is about. And yes, we're a small c, small l libertarian, small c conservative, small l libertarian station. And yes, we generally do support the Conservative Party of Canada, but sometimes we're critical. And I know some of you objected yesterday to my talking about the fact that the Conservative Party was actually sending MPs to the Punjab area to meet with Khalistanis. Sorry, that's the reality. That's the reality. We need to talk about the reality, even if it's contrary to our beliefs. Anyway, I want to talk about the State of the Union last night. I watched it in its entirety, the longest State of the Union address in the history of the United States, of that particular address, which usually is February, March timeframe. And I always like to think it's a bit like having Valentine's Day in February. It's something to keep people politically occupied during what is the worst part of the year. Couldn't be worse, right? Here we are in the third week of February, just about through February. And the State of the Union is always interesting. It's always fascinating how presidents decide to frame their policies. And I think what Donald Trump succeeded in doing last night was Donald Trump from 2016, even more so than Donald Trump in 2024. He's been criticized so much in the last couple of months for supporting too much AI, for supporting Palantir, for supporting surveillance, and, of course, the foreign wars. We're on the verge of potentially a war with Iraq. We've got aircraft carriers and battleships in the Persian Gulf region. We've got the United States withdrawing its troops from Syria. Every indication is that there's going to be an attack against Iran. Donald Trump did not mention Iran last night. And if he did, in passing, I'm sorry I missed it. But obviously he did not talk about invading Iran. He did not talk about anything like that. He said he was the president who ended 9 wars, which I don't think is quite accurate. But he talked about himself as the peace president time and time again. And I think this was integral to his speech. Domestic policies, talked about affordability, talked about lowering taxes. He actually talked about eliminating the income tax through tariffs. Now, I don't personally believe this is technically possible. How are you going to spend a $1.5 trillion on your national defense and pay for it all through tariffs? Not to mention the humongous social security net the United States is paying for, and they don't even have universal Medicare. So how Donald Trump expects to pay for everything through tariffs, I think it's a bit of a pipe dream. I hope it's true. I would love to see income tax eradicated. It's the most pernicious, the most odious form of the government's hand in your pocket that exists in a democratic society. I would love to see that end. But we'll see. Trump seems to work miracles. This speech was obviously about shoring up MAGA support, Make America Great Again support, in advance of the midterm elections that are coming in November. But that's a long ways away. And you don't do that kind of work in February. You begin that kind of work in February. But Donald Trump has his work cut out for him because his popularity is not at an all-time high. It's about 60% disapproval right now, based on most of the polls that I'm seeing. That's not insurmountable. That is what usually happens to a sitting president after 2 years. And yes, you're quite right. He's not exactly at the 2-year mark, but after the first year or so, yes, even the greatest presidents had their popularity fall after that. So, by the way, I am in nobody's pocket. So I want to show you, first of all, how the speech began and what he talked about.
Less than 5 months from now, our country will celebrate an epic milestone in American history, the 250th anniversary of our glorious American independence. This July 4th, we will mark 2.5 centuries of liberty and triumph, progress and freedom in the most incredible and exceptional nation ever to exist on the face of the earth. And you've seen nothing yet. We're going to do better and better and better. This is the golden age of America. And as time goes by, I believe the tariffs paid for by foreign countries will, like in the past, substantially replace the modern-day system of income tax, taking a great financial burden off the people that I love.
There he is. He said it. Now, that alone makes this speech newsworthy because he's still talking about eradicating income tax. Good for you, Donald Trump.
Right? Moving forward, factories, jobs, investment, and trillions of dollars will continue pouring into the United States of America because we finally have a president who puts America first. Put America first. I love America. For decades before I came along, we had the exact opposite. From trade to healthcare, from energy to immigration, everything was stolen and rigged in order to drain the wealth out of the productive, hardworking people who make our country great, who make our country run. Under Biden and his corrupt partners in Congress and beyond, it reached a breaking point with the Green New Scam, open borders for everyone. They poured in by the millions and millions from prisons, from mental institutions. They were murderers, 11,888 murders. They came into our country. You allowed that to happen. And record-setting inflation that cost the typical family $34,000 in just a speck of time. Now the same people in this chamber who voted for those disasters suddenly used the word affordability, a word. They just used it. Somebody gave it to them, knowing full well that.
Now this, of course, his handlers told him, talk about affordability, talk about affordability. Donald Trump very wisely does talk about affordability, but he doesn't own it in terms of why things aren't affordable. It's the Democrats who created a situation where people are looking for affordability. This is very smart politics. Very smart politics. He owns the word affordability, but not the reason for talking about affordability. You see what I mean? Yeah.
They caused and created the increased prices that all of our citizens had to endure. You caused that problem. You caused that problem. They knew their statements were a lie. They knew it. They knew their statements were a dirty, rotten lie. Their policies created the high prices. Our policies are rapidly ending them. We are doing really well. Those prices are plummeting downward. The price of eggs is down 60%, Madam Secretary. Thank you. The cost of chicken, butter, fruit, hotels, automobiles, rent is lower today than when I took office by a lot. And even beef, which was very high, is starting to come down significantly. Just hold on a little while. We're getting it down. And soon you will see numbers that few...
And actually, I quote these figures every week on this broadcast. The United States is way lower in terms of food prices than Canada. Canada is the highest in the industrialized world. So when he talks about the price of eggs coming down, the price of beef coming down, it is. In Canada, it ain't going down.
People would think were possible to achieve just a short time ago. Nobody can believe when they see the kind of numbers, and especially energy, when they see energy going down to numbers like that, they cannot believe it. It's like another big tax cut. I'm also confronting one of the biggest ripoffs of our times, the crushing costs of health care caused by you. Since the passage of the Unaffordable Care Act, sometimes referred to as Obamacare, big insurance companies have gotten rich. It was meant for the insurance companies, not for the people. With our government giving them hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars a year as their stock prices soared 1,000, 1,200, 1,400, and even 1,700%, like nothing else. That's why I introduced the great health care plan. I want to stop all payments to big insurance companies and instead give that money directly to the people so they can buy their own health care, which will be better health care at a much lower cost.
Compare this to Canada, my friends, where we don't have a health care choice. And as I like to say every day, and I talked about this yesterday, because refugees coming to Canada are getting real free health care. Your health care isn't free. My health care isn't free. I pay for it every year with the taxes I pay to the provincial government where I live. Unfortunately, right for me right now, that's Ontario. So my provincial taxes support the OHIP, Ontario Health Insurance Policy here in Ontario. I could be getting the same health care except without the wait times in the U.S. for the same price and probably less. So don't let anyone tell you you're getting free health care in this country. You're not. You're taxed to death for it. And you'll be taxed more for it if we decide to fund it more. So what Donald Trump is saying is let people decide about their health care. And believe me, you're not waiting 6 months for a cancer operation in the United States.
In addition, my plan requires maximum price transparency. That's a big deal. Sounds so simple, so big. And I did that in my first term, and the Democrats immediately terminated it with full knowledge that they were doing a very bad thing for the people. Costs were going to go way up, and that's what happened. And now I'm bringing them way down on health care and everything else. I'm also ending the wildly inflated cost of prescription drugs like has never happened before. Other presidents tried to do it, but they never could. They tried. Most didn't try, actually. But they tried. They said they tried. They couldn't do it. They didn't even come close. They were all talk and no action. But I got it done. Under my just enacted most favored nation agreements, Americans who have for decades paid by far the highest prices of any nation anywhere in the world for prescription drugs will now pay the lowest price anywhere in the world for drugs. Anywhere. The lowest price. So in my first year of the second term, should be my third term, but strange things happen. I took.
Okay. He could not have run for a third term under the Constitution, because the last guy to run for a third term and a fourth term was, of course, Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1940 and 1944. It was still constitutional to do that. It was just contrary to protocol, to tradition. And after Roosevelt ran for a fourth term successfully and then died in office about 3-4 months later, one in November, died in April 45. The Republicans engineered a constitutional amendment that you can only run for president twice, at least consecutively. So if Trump had won in 2020, he would not have been running in 2024. But technically, he could technically run again, but I think we all agree he probably shouldn't. He probably shouldn't because of the age factor. But anyway, I'm sorry, Mike. Sorry, my phone was ringing in the middle of this, and I actually lost an item with our bus services in Ottawa, and I think that was them trying to tell me where to pick it up. So anyway, thank you for. I want to show this next segment because this is political brilliance. This is absolute political brilliance, bringing 2 congressional medals of honor winners. 2 congressional medal of honor winners, yes, put it that way, into this forum and talking about the heroic deeds. And like I said, one thing Donald Trump did right last night was not spend the evening humiliating his Democratic opponents. He just let them do that for themselves. And for the most part, no, they weren't standing and applauding. No, they never do. But they sat on their hands and they just grimaced once in a while. There were no real antics like there usually are from the Democrats during Republican State of the Union addresses. So I think overall it was fairly civilized. But instead of going and eviscerating the Democrats time and time again, Donald Trump stuck to a very moderate script in terms of his language. He talked about getting rid of DEI almost right from the top of the speech. He got to the elements that were important to the base. We got rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. Gone. We gave parental rights back, so children cannot be subject to having so-called gender-affirming care, which is gender mutilation. Children cannot make up their own pronouns in the classroom and not tell the parents. The United States is years ahead of Canada on this. He talked about a lot of hot-button issues at the very beginning, and that, of course, was to appease and assuage the base, but not only the base. These are popular policies with average Americans and many Democrats who think the party has drifted so far into woke politics they don't know it anymore. So very, very smart to talk about these issues. To talk about how sanctuary cities don't work, get rid of them. To talk about how illegal immigrants should not be getting driver's license like they did in Minnesota. You know, and other things like this. And demanding voter ID in the United States elections. Not a radical idea, not racist, common sense. You need ID to go into a liquor store. You need ID to do a lot of things. You need ID to buy a gun in the United States. You should have ID to vote. And Donald Trump makes that point time and time again. But here's another great moment from the speech last night.
There were many heroes on that January raid to capture Maduro, really great heroes. It was very dangerous. They knew we were coming. They were all set. But the deeds of one warrior that night will live forever in the eternal chronicles of military valor. Chief Warrant Officer 5, Eric Slover, planned the mission and was the flight lead in the cockpit of the first helicopter, a big, beautiful, powerful helicopter. It was a massive Chinook carrying, as you can imagine, many, many American warfighters. Wearing the dog tags, his wife Amy had blessed with holy water before he left. She knew it was going to be a rough one. Eric steered the Chinook under the cover of night and descended swiftly upon Maduro's heavily protected military fortress. This was a major military installation, protected by thousands of soldiers and guarded by Russian and Chinese military technology. How did that work out? Not too good. While preparing to land, enemy machine guns fired from every angle, and Eric was hit very badly in the leg and hip, one bullet after another. He absorbed 4 agonizing shots, shredding his leg into numerous pieces. And yet, despite the fact that the use of his legs was vital to successful helicopter flight, legs are the most important part of flying a helicopter, to deliver the many commandos who would capture and detain Maduro was the only thing Eric was thinking about. Then, even as he was gushing blood, which was flowing back down the aisle, helicopter lands at a steep angle. The machine guns stood right in front of him. They were right in front of him, 2 machine gunners who escaped the wrath of the previous planes. Eric maneuvered his helicopter with all of those lives and souls to face the enemy and let his gunners eliminate the threat. Turned the helicopter around so the gunners could take care of business, saving the lives of his fellow warriors from what could have been a catastrophic crash deep in enemy territory. Only after safely landing the helicopter with all the warriors aboard in the exact right spot, which was vital to the mission. We probably would have had to maybe cancel the mission if that didn't happen. Eric told his co-pilot, also wounded, but not as gravely, to take over. I'm about ready to pass out. The success of the entire mission and the lives of his fellow warriors hinge on Eric's ability to take the searing pain. It was unbelievable what's happened to his legs of the bullets and keep on flying and landing, and people knew what was happening. Everybody in the back of the helicopter knew because they saw the blood pouring down the aisle. Chief Warrant Officer Slover is still recovering from his serious wounds, but I'm thrilled to say that he is here tonight with his wife Amy, Eric, and Amy, come on in. So we have a surprise for Eric and Amy. In recognition of Eric's actions above and beyond the call of duty, I would now like to ask General Jonathan Braga to present Chief Warrant Officer Slover with our nation's highest military award, the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Just a note here, if you're not familiar with the Congressional Medal of Honor, this is the United States equivalent of the Victoria Cross. It's the highest medal, the highest military decoration available for outstanding bravery. It is a big deal. It doesn't happen every day. And some of the people who have received the Congressional Medal of Honor are people you've never heard of, but were completely heroic in action. Others were famous, like Audie Murphy, Sergeant Audie Murphy, who went on to be a movie star. People like Colonel Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, the Union colonel who was at Little Round Top in the U.S. Civil War at Gettysburg. I was there, my God, how many times? Probably 20 times, where he won his Congressional Medal of Honor. So this is a profound moment, and a profoundly great moment. And you can say that Donald Trump is exploiting that moment, but I don't think he really is here. I think he does it very tastefully, and it could have been done very badly. And I don't think Donald Trump did it very badly. I think what he does here is tremendously historic, and I think Americans will read it and see it correspondingly in that way, in that manner. And I think he's honoring the military, and he's honoring bravery and courage. And the last part of his, get to that in a minute, was all about ordinary Americans doing extraordinary things, not just in the military, but people out of uniform too. And it was all about how America can be great because of the greatness of its people, not because Donald Trump is great. He could have ended it all by saying, it's all about me, it's all about me. But he said, it's all about you. And this, of course, you never hear from Canadian politicians like Mark Carney. It's all about them. Well, let's listen to some more, because I think this is great stuff.
Well, thank you very much, Eric and Amy. Great to get to know you. I met with them and with a lot of their fellow warriors at Fort Bragg recently. You notice the name Fort Bragg, we have it back, we brought it back. We won the First World War with it, the Second World War with it, and then they decided to change the name. So we changed it back. Everybody wanted to.
I love this. It's Fort Bragg again, named after a Confederate general, General Braxton Bragg. The damn Biden administration changed all of these bases named after Confederate generals to something that had no historical meaning or heritage at all. Okay, if that's the only thing Donald Trump has done, thank God for Donald Trump, because you don't change your history. And I can't say enough about this, because yes, the Confederacy lost the Civil War. We all know that. Yes, we all know that. However, why did they name bases after Confederate generals? Because it was reconciliation. And I remember going to Gettysburg for the first time, and people describing how Gettysburg, yes, they had Confederate flags, they had Confederate monuments alongside Union monuments in the American flag, because it was about reconciliation between the states, between the North and the South. And people like Joe Biden and the woke Democrats never understood that. So they renamed, like Fort Bragg, the home of the airborne. They renamed it, I think it was Fort Independence or something. People said, what the hell? But thank God for Donald Trump in this regard.
Change back too. And 10 of Eric's fellow warriors from that incredible night of victory will also be receiving medals at a private ceremony that will soon be held at the White House. And Eric will be there. Thank you, Eric. That's a big one. Tonight we've celebrated many truly extraordinary American patriots, but there is one last living legend to honor before we go. He is one more heroic American aviator, Navy fighter pilot. Royce Williams served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, flying more than 220 missions. In the skies over Korea in 1952, Royce was in the dogfight of a lifetime, legendary dogfight. Flying through blizzard conditions, his squadron was ambushed by 7 Soviet fighter planes. It was his first aerial combat of the war, and despite being massively outnumbered and outgunned, Royce led the takedown of 4 enemy jets and almost destroyed the others, vanquishing his adversaries while taking 263 bullets to his own plane and being seriously hurt. His story was secret for over 50 years. He didn't even want to tell his wife, but the legend grew and grew. But tonight, at 100 years old, this brave Navy captain is finally getting the recognition he deserves. He was a legend long before this evening. Royce, please stand up, and I will ask the First Lady of the United States to present Captain Royce Williams with his Congressional Medal of Honor. Badly in the leg and hip, one life, but the legend.
All right, this guy's 100 years old. He fought in, he earned this Medal of Honor in Korea, which was over 70 years ago. This is Korea from 1950 to 53. So this is up to 74 years ago. He's 100 years old today. This is another great moment in this speech last night. And I want to just hurry ahead here to Trump's concluding remarks because I think they're brilliant.
Thank you. 250 years is a long time in the life of a nation, but in another sense, it's really a mere moment in the eye of history. 2 of the gentlemen we met in the gallery this evening took their first breaths 1 century ago, 100 years before that, on July 4th, 1826, the author of the Declaration of Independence, brilliant, Thomas Jefferson, drew his last breath. Just a single long human lifespan separates the giants who declared and won our independence from the heroes who stand among us tonight.
Now, this is a brilliant moment because he's linking what's happening in the speech, in the State of the Union speech, to Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson, the primary author of the Declaration of Independence, one of the authors of the Constitution, one of the first presidents of the United States, one of the greatest Americans. Yes, of course, he had his flaws, but Donald Trump is not interested in talking about the flaws because Thomas Jefferson is still a great American. And he links what's happening tonight to Thomas Jefferson's death 200 years ago in 1826. And this, of course, is what makes this speech really great. And he ends this speech in a fantastic manner. This is not Donald Trump at his sourest, at his most banal. This is Donald Trump at his best, and I want you to listen.
Everything our nation has done, everything we have achieved, has been the work of those few great lifetimes. In those brief chapters, Americans built this nation from 13 humble colonies into the pinnacle of human civilization and human freedom, the strongest, wealthiest, most powerful, most successful nation in all of history. Americans ventured out across the daunting and dangerous continent. We carved paths through an unforgiving wilderness, settled a boundless frontier, and tamed the beautiful but very, very dangerous Wild West. From empty marshes and wide open plains, we raised up the world's greatest cities. Together, we mastered the world's mightiest industries and shattered history's monstrous tyrannies. And we liberated millions from the chains of fascism, communism, oppression, and terror. Americans lifted humanity into the skies on the wings of aluminum and steel. And then we launched mankind into the stars on rockets powered by sheer American will and unyielding American pride. We wired the globe with our ingenuity. We captivated the planet with American culture. And now we are pioneering the next great American breakthroughs that will change the entire world. All of this and so much more is the enduring legacy, unmatched glory of the hardworking patriots who built and defended this country and who still carry the hopes and freedoms on all of humanity's backs. For years they were forgotten, betrayed, and cast aside. But that great betrayal is over, and they will never be forgotten again. Because when the world needs courage, daring, vision, and inspiration, it is still turning to America. And when God needs a nation to work his miracles, he knows exactly who to ask. There is no challenge Americans cannot overcome, no frontier too vast for us to conquer, no dream too bold for us to chase, no horizon too distant for us to claim. For our destiny is written by the hand of providence, and these first 250 years were just the beginning. From the rugged border towns of Texas to the heartland villages of Michigan, from the sun-kissed shores of Florida to the endless fields of the Dakotas, and from the historic streets of Philadelphia to right here in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., the golden age of America is upon us. The revolution that began in 1776 has not ended. It still continues because the flame of liberty and independence still burns in the heart of every American patriot. And our future will be bigger, better, brighter, bolder, and more glorious than ever before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Beautiful speech. Yeah, I'm being a bit of a propagandist today, but I love Donald Trump, but I've criticized Donald Trump on a number of issues. You know that. That doesn't mean I've lost complete faith in Donald Trump. I've written so many columns about Donald Trump. I supported him in 2016. I supported him in 2020. I support him in 2024. As bad as Donald Trump can be on certain days of the week, he's a hell of a lot better than most Canadian politicians can ever dream about being. And I say that in all sincerity, because at least you get something out of Donald Trump that you can use. What have we got out of, what are we getting out of our politicians in this country? Is anybody promising to reverse DEI? Is anybody promising to stop gender mutilation? Is anybody promising to restore parental rights? Is anybody really promising to restore democracy to Canada? Well, maybe they're promising that. I don't know if they can deliver. Anyway, want to go to our merchandise.
who cares?
Good stuff, folks. I'm in nobody's pocket. Never will be. By the way, suggestions. What do I need to do to break through the algorithm? Your suggestions are always welcome. Now, we were going to do Conspiracy Wednesday today, but I needed to do this speech. We're going to do Conspiracy Thursday or Friday this week, and we're going to get to your Rumble rants and your super chats at that point. Want to briefly get into some Canadian news here. And by the way, people are asking me, what's going on with the ostrich farm? What's going on with Katie? Well, expecting to hear some news today or tomorrow. The farm is doing in response to their neighbor filing a lawsuit against the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and the RCMP. Now, Katie has already said it's coming. It's on the road. They're next, but they have a few things they have to get in order first. I'm aware of them. I'm not talking about them, but they will be delivering on that promise very shortly, and we will be there front and center. Now, let's share the screen for a minute here. And of course, while Donald Trump is talking about all these domestic issues, that's great. He didn't talk about, as I said, potential war with Iran, but it could be imminent. This one really, really bothers me. Federal court rules CBC can keep taxpayers in the dark on spending. So it's a crown corporation. It's a state broadcaster. Your taxes pay for its upkeep to the tune of $1.3 to $1.5 billion a year, but you have no right to know what it's up to. Wow. Only in Canada. This is interesting. Talking about the Jeffrey E. files, we all saw Les Wexner last week appear before the Congressional Oversight Committee. Inexplicably, as Dimitri Lascaris posts on X, the subpoena does not oblige Wexner to produce documents relating to Epstein. Holy crap. Incredible. More about refugees from Kirk Lubimov. Canada has already a record high number of asylum claimants and been increasing for 15 quarters in a row to 500,767 people. The problem isn't just the sheer number of refugees, but also the speed they are growing at. No, that's very true. Yeah, and more of these incredibly strange trans incidents, we'll call it that. Well, if you're out there and you think there's no connection here, think again and give your head a shake. The Justice Center announces that lawyers have filed a motion for a permanent stay of proceedings in the $290 million class action lawsuit against Freedom Convoy protesters and donors. The motion arises from the plaintiff's failure to immediately disclose the settlement agreement reached in April 2024 with one of the defendants. So this could be thrown out, folks. This absolutely ridiculous lawsuit, class action lawsuit by a bunch of aggrieved Ottawa residents who just couldn't handle all of that honking. Good for the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. They are going to be helping another family close to my heart. And I'll have more about that later in the week as well. I will be talking to Dallas Brody later today, and we'll be broadcasting that interview tomorrow or Friday. And we're going to be talking about a BC school trustee who was fined $750,000 by the BC Human Rights Tribunal for simply saying there are only two genders and he does not agree with gender ideology. So that's coming. That's coming, my friend. I want to thank you all for watching today. I hope this has been a great show for you. I enjoyed it. We'll be back again tomorrow. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for sharing this station with your friends and family. Thank you for hitting that like button, because I tell you, we are fighting back in a way I've never had to before, because I'm going to keep this station on the air. I'm going to keep fighting for freedom. I'm going to keep fighting for justice and truth. And I am damn determined to resist this Carney government in any way possible as it encroaches upon our individual freedom. And it will continue to do that, mark my words. I'll be back again tomorrow. Same time, same place. 10 a.m. This has been David Crayden, broadcasting live from our nation's capital in Ottawa. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow.